Hello and welcome, kids and cadets, to the FSF PopCast. As a reminder, this is the show that's made by nerds for nerds. So, welcome to the Nerd Layer. Our guest today is an actress that I had the pleasure of meeting this past September at the Monroe Comic-Con in Monroe, Michigan. Now, this Michigan native you've seen on Disney Plus in the MCU during the run of Falcon and the Winter Soldier as Gigi. You've seen her on Netflix in the show Ozark as Sheriff Reddick and a few other characters. And there's a whole list of other places where she has been, as a guest appearance there. So I am very excited to welcome someone from the Mitten State. And we have Dani Deette here today. Dani, welcome to the FSF PopCast.
Thank you so much. Happy to be here.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you. When I met you at the Comic-Con, I was just like, she's really cool. I got to get her on the show. So yeah, you're really cool, and I got you on the show, so I'm excited.
Well, hey, some days, I try.
There you go. Right. Best, that's the thing. Our best days. Sometimes we hit the level of cool. Sometimes we're just like, yeah, I woke up. So
yeah. Exactly. And you met me on a good day, I was happy. I was apparently oozing the cool, so I will take it.
There you go. All right. So Dani, we were talking pre-show. You have an interesting last name. I have an interesting last name. So I was hoping that you would regale our listeners there with a little bit of the background of how to pronounce your name and how we get to that pronunciation.
Okay, so little fun fact about my name is that it's French, and this name that you guys see as my surname for my acting is actually legally my middle name. It's a name that I always loved and actually almost legally changed my first name to when I was in 5th grade. And my mom considered it. But nice. there's a proper French pronunciation. And then there's the pronunciation that my family's been saying since I was born. And we're very American. So I don't think we're saying it right, but I go by Dani Deette. Proper French pronunciation, I'm told, from proper French speakers is Deette or Deette.
Excellent. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, and so then that's how you pronounce your name.
And then name.
We did talk about my name. I think this is actually the first time I've actually said my full name. I mean, like I have my name down in the show notes, and if you look me up anywhere, I mean, I put my last name out there. It's not like I'm hiding it or anything, but I don't think I've ever said my name is Tim Bicycle on this show. Hi, I'm Tim Bicycle, and I'm a podcast host.
Hey, everybody! We'd like to welcome to the show today Tim Bicycle, our wonderful cast host.
And that's saying bicycle, like you're saying bye to two seagulls. Bye, seagulls.
Makes it so easy to remember.
Yeah, I came up with that years ago because trying to get people to understand the I before the E and the E after the I and all the other spelling violations that the last name has, because it is of German descent. Now, I was born with the last name of Riley. I was adopted when I was 13. So I'm highly Irish. I don't know if you could tell by the sunburn I'm getting from the lights in the room.
I'm also Irish, so I get it.
Yeah. Yeah. I start prepping with, sunscreen about 2 weeks before going outside. So just a permanent bake on. But yeah, so I went from the last name of Riley, which was only 5 letters, to Bicycle, which was 9 letters. And it's so the funny thing is, so the man who was my stepfather at the time and who was my dad, I call him Dad.
By the way, that drinking sound is my pup.
No worries. He's a pretty big dude. He's 6'7", and he's a mountain of a man. And I hadn't hit any growth spurt. And then he adopted me, and like immediately it was like, you must take bicycle form. And I went from like 5'4" to almost 6 foot over a summer, and jumped up like 4 shoe sizes. And yeah, that was a horrible summer. My legs hurt so much.
I'm sure your body hurt that summer.
Oh, for sure.
That's funny.
So enough about me. Let's talk about you, because that's what everybody's here for.
Talking about you. What else do you tell us your biggest fears and your biggest
I'm afraid of heights horribly.
okay.
And I hate spiders. I
Mine
despise spiders.
and drowning. Mine's suffocation and drowning.
Yeah.
Biggest,
Like, like you can't really see it, but right there on that hand, there's an incision mark.
Yeah, I see it.
I got bit by a immature brown recluse and
Oh,
had to have surgery and like the whole 9 yards. And so ever since then, I see a spider, it dies.
yeah.
It's like if it's outside of my home, it's fine. I don't bother. But if it crosses the threshold to my house, I automatically take the stance of a gangster. I want you dead. I want your family dead. I want your friends dead.
Where's the rest of them? Where are they hiding?
Yeah. Yeah. I have to search them all out because they must die. That's all there is to it.
Well, we get it with that story. I mean, that's a big deal. So, we'll let all the murder. We'll give you a pass on all the murder.
Well, there's been quite a few spider murders in our house.
Yeah.
The only ones I don't kill are the daddy long legs because I know that they're not going to bite me. I'm like, yeah, that's fine. They can live.
They're sweet.
They're doing the Lord's work out there, killing the small bugs and stuff. So I'm letting them have a pass. I collect those and send them outside. But anything other than a daddy long legs, it's going down. So or flattened, either way.
End of days, guys. Well, thanks for sharing, Tim by Siegel.
Hey, no problem. That's what we're here for. It's the sharing hour.
Yeah.
Anyway. All right, so let's get you to share something.
Sure.
Now, one of the things that I love to do on our shows, because I like to know what makes people tick, how they got to be who they are, why they do what they do. Mm-hmm. And so I'm also a giant nerd. I don't know if you can tell by all the toys I have behind me, but so one of the things we love on this show is to talk about people's origins, how they got started, why they do what they do. Okay. So in the origin of Dani Deette, or the proper French pronunciation, which I'm not going to try again. But in the story of Dani Deette, what is your origin? How did you get here?
Oh, man. That is complex. And I will try to give you cliff notes because you're asking about how I got to acting, but there was this whole other career and life purpose thing that I had to do first. Sure. And I feel like my dog is trying to be part of this podcast. He's 12 and has dementia, and he's over here starting to make noises and trying to play with me. So I apologize.
That's okay.
You just might have to have a distracted me trying to calm him down.
That's okay. We like puppies. We're good.
Yeah, he's the best. Hopefully he'll stand up and come get in frame here in a minute, because that's why I have to be on the couch doing this, because I knew this would happen. So anyway, so I originally at 15 knew I was going to be a criminal psychologist, actually.
Okay.
That's what I thought for certain I was going to do. And then I went and interviewed some prison psychologists and found out pretty quickly, oh, I have to work in and out of the prison every day. And I don't really think I want to do that. I'm like a natural light person. I like big windows. So I was like, I need to not do that. So I pivoted. I ended up going into a career in law enforcement and criminal justice for about 7.5 years. I was you're good. I was a Children's Protective Services investigator for a little while, investigating abuse and neglect. And then I was a felony level probation officer. And I worked in the court system in Michigan as a representative for the Department of Corrections in one of our biggest circuit courts. And that I realized much later in life, when I was around 30, why I ever went into law enforcement. And it was due to a loss that I had as a kid. And this is a little dark, but it's not dark because I'm good now. I've dealt with it. But somebody who was like a big sister to me was actually killed. Okay. She was a teenager, and she was killed by 3 boys that went to her high school, and I was 7 at the time. So
okay.
Anyway, at 30, I realized, that's why I went into law enforcement. I wanted to know. I went back to the origin of thinking I wanted to be a criminal psychologist, and it was that makes sense. I wanted to deeply know why bad guys do the bad things. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So anyway, fast forward to I'm kind of stressed out in these jobs, and wanting a change. And I had always just kind of talked about while I was watching scripted television as like my release after my really serious job. You know how people say about their jobs, like, well, it's not like it's life and death here. Like, why do we treat our job like it's life and death? Well, I mean, mine actually was, right? So like,
Yeah, absolutely.
I made a mistake, kids could get hurt. If I made a mistake, other people could get hurt. So I would come home and I would watch scripted television, and I would always just like randomly say, I feel like I could do that. I feel like I'd be good at that. I don't know why. I just had this like intuitive feeling. Now I know, for me, it's God. I know that was God putting that on me. And, it was probably the Holy Spirit talking to me. So anyway, when I got to the point where I was like, I don't want to do this job anymore for the rest of my life until retirement, like it's just not fulfilling me in all the ways I want something to fulfill me. There were parts of it certainly that did fulfill me. I just made a total pivot and I moved to Atlanta. I quit my 9-to-5 steady job. I had found out that there was a market in Atlanta that was like a smaller secondary market to LA and New York. And my logic was, well, I'm like an investigator by trade, right? And so I was like, well, what is my easiest foot in the door kind of thing, right? I always was trying to figure that out in my investigations and in my work and all of that. And it was kind of like, well, deductive reasoning would tell me that I'll probably be better off if I'm a fish in like a little bit of a smaller pond. So I moved to Atlanta. Didn't know a single person in the business, by the way. And from there I just started, trying to meet people, going to some acting classes, doing some events, things like that. Eventually got an agent, and then year after year after year, you continue to try and up level. And now I'm working where I'm working.
Excellent.
Yeah.
All right. I like that.
That was the shortest I could say that. There's a lot.
Well, life stories are usually hard to keep under 5 minutes, especially if there's some fun details in there. Now I knew that you had a career pivot in there someplace.
Yeah.
And I had seen that I think it was in one of your bios somewhere, that there had been a whole career in law enforcement, and then the pivoting to acting, which is a pretty big pivot. That's not just, hey, I was a dancer and I decided to be an actor too, or I was an actor and I wanted to be a singer. And
I
those are
growing up though. I was always a singer growing up. I performed.
Oh, really?
I was 5. Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
We'll have you hit a few bars later. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. What do you want? Little Mermaid? Because that's like too.
I'm sure you would rock it. I have no doubt.
For sure.
All right. So in our introduction, we talked about how you played the role of Gigi in the MCU for the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, which was, I'm sure, for me, I loved that show. I thought they did such a good job with it. So very well written. And I loved watching Sam's transition to becoming Captain America. But I'm curious, though, because the MCU and Marvel is such a massive IP.
Yeah.
And to be a part of that is big. So what has it meant to you personally or professionally or both to be part of the MCU?
So I guess the best way to encapsulate kind of what it meant to me was, okay. There were some things that happened during that, multiple things that happened during that actually, where I was just like, is this my life? I was having those surreal moments where I'm like, is this really my life now? Like, is this happening? Is this a dream? Because, some of that involved like the fact that we shot over in Czech Republic in Prague. So we did go to Prague twice for the filming of that. And that was my first time ever going to that part of the world. And
cool.
It was during COVID because we were shooting in 2020. So like that was also happening where we were literally in Prague when COVID hit. They started shutting down the European borders. And all of a sudden, I mean, we had just gotten there. We were there like less than a week, I think even. And we were supposed to be there for like almost a month. And then I got a call at like 10:30 at night. And I had just like fully unpacked myself into this hotel room, right? Like I had like castmates who went full on grocery shopping. they were like getting all their stuff for the next few weeks. So they didn't have to like operate on takeout. And we got a call like, hey, cars are picking you up at 8:30. We are getting you out of the country. Disney's getting you out of the country before they close these borders, because they didn't really know how fast all that was moving. I think Spain and Italy were already closing.
Okay.
So that was also like a, whoa, is this real? And then when we went back to work, we were one of the first productions to like in the world to go back to work. Because we were like almost done with our show. And so that was my first time on like a fully chartered jet, because they wanted to keep us safe. So they got a chartered jet for like the entire cast and crew. And that was my first time ever seeing like a fancy plane that like all the seats were, you know, first class, and everybody from stunts to camera guys to sound to everybody, our whole cast, our whole crew, we were all on one charter together, and that was really fun. But when we were rushing out of the country, I'll never forget, it was Sebastian on one side of me and Mackie on the other side of me, and then some of our other castmates were like trailing right behind us. But it was like the three of us up front were like rushing through London Heathrow Airport. And I don't know why Seb had his new Winter Soldier costume, but he had it like in a garment bag. And we got off the plane, and I remember him being like, oh crap, I forgot my suit or something. And he ran back in and got his garment bag. And I'm like, what is that? And he's like, it's my new outfit. And I was like, what? You almost left that on the plane? And so we're like rushing. Like we've got on masks, right? And so there was this moment that dawned on me while we're like all like rushing, like trying to get to wherever we're going, where I was like, no one knows. Like, I'm certain there's somebody here who would care that this is Sebastian and this is Mackie, and this is also his next unrevealed Winter Soldier outfit in this bag. And so it was just like that moment was one of those things where I was like, whoa, I'm part of something really big that means a lot to a lot of people. And I'm getting to do it with really fun, nice human beings, like from the top to the bottom, you know. And it was just because Mackie's always cracking a joke. I mean, he's really funny. And so it was like a lot of those pinch me moments, I guess. And it was early in my career, because at that point I had started working as a professional actor on union shows. My first ever booking was like April 2018. And I started filming Falcon Winter Soldier in December 2019. And I was coming off of recurring on The Sinner, like 7 out of 8 episodes. And then I went right into the Falcon Winter Soldier 6 out of 6 episodes. So that moment in time, end of 2019, which was only like 18 months after I started really working, where I had to quit my side jobs. And I was like, oh, I literally can't have another job because I'm filming. All of that was happening at once. And, you know, we started December 2019, but then like, you know, we were in Prague in March, obviously 2020. That's when because we did some stuff in Atlanta too. So it was like, it was all very fast as well, you know, for me to go from like, oh, I've never been on a union show to 18 months later. Well, I guess it'd be like more like 21 months later at that point, but 18 months later, I started the show. 21 months later, I'm literally having this moment in London Heathrow Airport where it's dawning on me in the middle of chaos, like, oh my God, this is what?
Right.
So okay. I guess that's the best way to describe.
I love it.
How that affected me.
And you're right. People would have lost their mind if they would have known that he was carrying the Winter Soldier's outfit.
I'm certain somebody there would have cared.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
There's always a Marvel fan somewhere in a stone's throw, right? Like I feel like they're everywhere.
Yeah, it doesn't take long to find them. That's for sure.
Right. Exactly.
All right. Well, cool. So in addition to Falcon and the Winter Soldier, that's not the only superhero show you're on. You also did an episode of Black Lightning for the CW for DC. Now, I'm curious because you've worked in Marvel, you've worked and did something in DC. Do you have a personal leaning towards one of the fandoms? Like, and if so, who's your super?
That's really hard, and I'm going to tell you why. Because I have I have like my own personal connection to Wonder Woman.
Okay.
Because, well, quite frankly, my mom and Linda Carter looked like sisters back in the 70s. And actually,
Oh, wow. Okay.
when I hit a certain age, I started being told, like when I was still working in law enforcement, by these like men more like my mom's age, being like, "Gosh, you look like Linda Carter," because I used to have this really long dark hair too.
Mhm.
And so then I said to her, like, I keep getting compared to, this Wonder Woman lady from the 70s. And my mom said, "Oh yeah, honey, well, yeah, you're a clone of me." And it literally was nonstop because my mom was being compared at the time, at the height of Linda's career, as that. So we've always joked that Linda Carter is like my unrelated aunt, because when you put all three of our photos together at certain times in our life, like all of our features are very, very similar. So it's like a running inside thing with our family. And I just love Wonder Woman. I love what she stands for. But there's so many great characters in Marvel that I honestly always have a really hard time deciding. But I love Iron Man because
Nice.
I love Robert Downey Jr. And I have a very personal soft spot for Tom Holland and Zendaya. But yeah, I really love Spider-Man too.
All right. Nice. I'm just for kicks and giggles sakes, mine has always been Wolverine. I love the X-Men. I love Wolverine. I've always loved his sarcasm. That's also one of the reasons I like Spider-Man too. I like
Yeah.
the more sarcastic characters: Deadpool, Spider-Man,
I
Wolverine.
mean, yes.
Yeah.
The sarcastic characters always get me.
Yeah. I always say that I speak two languages: broken English and sarcasm. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And and I had to admit to Mackie that he was pretty funny. I didn't want to, but I was like, all right, you got me. Falcon got me in these scenes. It's hard to admit it to him because he can be a little smug about it as a joke. Because him and I, got to be friendly, obviously working together and stuff. And he's a really nice guy, and he just has a great sense of humor. But honestly, it's funny because people are like, "Well, how is he, in real life?" And I'm like, he's literally him. Like that, who you see is so close to who Mackie is with his humor. It's so it's really fun to be around.
Yeah, he looks like he would be that type of guy. Just just everything I've seen of him looks like he would just be just fun to sit down and have a coffee with. And
yeah, and Sebastian's just really quiet and really, really kind.
I love watching their interactions, the two of them together. That's fun stuff.
Yeah. Well, and because I kind of knew that, Winter Soldier in general is like a little bit more like standoffish, judgmental people, and Sebastian is really quiet by nature. At some point I even said to Mackie, I was like, I don't think Sebastian likes me. And because like I wouldn't talk to him very much. And he's like, no, he's just really quiet. Just go engage him. And then as soon as I did, he's like, "Oh yeah, hey Dani, what's up?" And he was just like all smiley and like, oh. I was like, Mackie was okay. He was being serious, but he was like, no, he's just really quiet. He likes you.
Love it.
Yeah.
All right. So let's switch gears just a little bit here. Now we're both Michigan natives.
Yes.
You grew up, I believe, in the Battle Creek area.
Yes.
If I'm not mistaken. I was born in Lansing and grew up over on the west side of the state, over between Muskegon and Grand Rapids area.
Oh, okay.
So I live in a little town called Newaygo, which it's kind of a pin drop on the map, but right on M37. It's a great little town.
Oh, Newaygo.
So,
what else is it near?
Muskegon River. We're like right on the Muskegon River, runs right through the center of town.
Because I always have to take M37 up from Battle Creek to the Grand Rapids Airport and go through Hastings and that whole.
We're north of that. So
okay.
Yeah, we're north of all that fun. But yeah. So I always again, this goes back to me being just incredibly curious about what makes people tick. Going back to your life growing up in Michigan, how do you think that growing up in Michigan affected your career path, not only into criminal justice, but also into acting?
Yeah. Okay. So that's an interesting question I've never been asked. And I love that question because I do think that growing up in Michigan has impacted the way that I move within this industry.
Hmm.
There's actually a lot of people in the industry from Michigan, and I meet more and more of them all the time. And it makes my heart really happy. Paul Walter Hauser is one of them. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Paul, but he was just in the new 101 Dalmatians movie with Emma
Okay.
Stone. He was in Blackbird with Taron Egerton,
Oh, okay. Okay.
playing serial killer and stuff. But he's just like the nicest guy ever. He's from Saginaw, but he's one of the bigger ones on the map besides like James Caan, who went to Michigan State, my alma mater, and
Hmm.
all those guys. But I think that growing up in the Midwest and being also like a Northerner in general, there's a directness to us, especially because I went to a Southern market. It's just very different, you know. So
Sure.
I had to very much get accustomed to that. That there's a slower pace, and I feel like my northernness and my Midwestern frankness has allowed me to like just move very directly in this business, and sometimes in a business that, especially in the Southeast, where like I was the minority in that sense, people were a lot more careful. But I think that I'm more in line with like New York and LA and the way that they move. But I think that I went after things maybe not in the way that I was supposed to, in terms of like I would meet a casting director and I would just walk right up to him and introduce myself, like things like that. That I do think that my Michigan roots instilled in me to just be kind and be myself and be direct with people and tell the
Hmm.
truth. And you know what I mean? Like I feel like I got that from my Midwestern family and my Midwestern roots. So I think it's helped in my relationship building.
Okay. That's a great answer. Um, I find that many of the people around our area, people that
Mhm.
because I actually have family down in the Battle Creek area as well.
Mhm.
And I find that, we're pretty frank, open, people. This is what it is. Here's how it is. And that's not being rude. There's a difference there between, being frank and being rude.
Yeah.
Um, but it's interesting that you bring it up like that because I also have family from, like, my mother was born in Tampa, and I have family down from the south. Every time we go down into Florida to visit them, it's just a completely different way of life,
Yeah.
and and just different mindset. And they would, we'd have a conversation about something, and they would try to trim the outside edge of the conversation, and I'm like, no, let's just dive right into it. Here we go. Let's just talk about it. And
Yep.
yeah,
Yeah,
so.
I often have had a lot of friends who they're from all over the country, but have always said like one of my biggest strengths in so far in being in this business is my ability to build relationships and to build genuine relationships.
Hmm.
And and I think that a lot of that truly comes from the fact that my transparency and openness is a little bit disarming to people. I think, especially in the entertainment business, where people might feel more guarded. I didn't come into this business as an 18-year-old learning all of like that, and I just kind of
Right.
came this like I was 32 when I even decided to do it. I was 34 when I started working. Like um, I just kind of am like, well, I'm just going to show up as I am and not worry about like the politics, for lack of a better word, or the semantics of all of it. And
Yeah.
for whatever reason, showing up honestly in that way has paid dividends because people are just like comfortable, I guess, with me. And so that's been something that's been reflected back to me. And I didn't realize it was not normal, I guess, in some capacities, because I'm
Sure.
just being around like my family and my people and people from Michigan. And we're all just kind of that way. Like you meet somebody and you're just like, oh yeah, hey, you're my friend, you're my family already. Like, I don't know.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
No, yeah, I understand exactly what you mean.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just, I think it's part of the region in which we live in, and just you become accustomed to just kind of reaching out to people, and this is what I'm going to do. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
just being a little bit more direct.
I think,
All
yeah.
right. So there's a really cool story. I don't know. Christopher Lee, the actor, passed away a
Mhm.
couple years ago, but he was Saruman on Lord of the Rings. He was Count Dooku in the Star Wars movies. There's a really interesting story out there I promise this will all make sense in a moment. Really interesting story of him talking with Peter Jackson on the set of the Lord of the Rings movies about stabbing somebody in the back, and this is the sound that it needed to be made. And he was telling Peter, no, I've actually stabbed somebody in the back. This is the sound. Because I don't know if you know, Christopher Lee has had the most awesome life ever. If you do like a minute of research on him, he's who James Bond is modeled after.
Wow.
His cousin was Ian Fleming. Yeah, and yeah, he's
I
got
don't
this
know
whole.
any of that.
Yeah, it's honestly, it's worth the internet search. It's
Okay.
a whole lot of fun. So anyway, yeah, he had this whole conversation with Peter Jackson because Peter was like, "Oh, if you're getting stabbed, you want to make this sound," and he's like, "No, that's not what it sounds like." Because in World War II, he stabbed somebody in the back. So,
Oh,
so I told you that so I could ask you this: with your background in criminal justice, have you ever had a moment on a set where somebody's like, "Oh, well, going to do this with a gun, or we're going to do that with a gun, or this is how the police would handle this situation, or something," and you pulled the Christopher Lee card out, and you're like, "Actually, that's not how that would happen."
so many times. It's not a one-time thing. In fact, there's literally footage of me out there doing something that a cop would never do. And God bless them. Writers got to write for TV and write for the moment that they're trying to create. And like
Sure.
so I get all of that. Like, it can't all be realistic because then the story can't move forward. So like, I'm not upset about it, but there's a moment, writers of this show, don't kill me if you ever see this, where I'm in The Sinner, and there's a scene with Matt Bomer and Parisa Fitzhenley, two lovely humans, but Matt there's like a restraining order because Matt is like, suspected of being this serial killer or whatever. And
Okay.
Parisa plays his wife, but he goes to the house late at night because he wants to see her and he's beg her back and all whatever. And I get there because I'm staking out the house to protect her. Okay. That's why I'm even there at that moment. And then
Okay.
I walk behind him in the lawn and I'm like, you got to get away from the door. You got to be out on the road, whatever. And I finally get him to the road, and then she comes out and she's having a soft moment and she wants to come up to him. And I'm like, no, you can't. And she's like, let me. And I let her push past me. And then I let them have this moment face to face at the road. And I'm like 10, 15 feet over there. And I'm like, and the whole time I was like, guys, this would never happen. I'm like, because if he's suspected of murder and there's a PPO and she gets hurt on my watch, I'm done. And so like stuff like that, I've certainly been like, I was still newer at that time too. So I was like, I gotta say something. But usually they also have like law enforcement consultants on set, and like even the consultants will be like, yeah, no, we know, but like just do the thing. And also like I have a brother that's a police sergeant, and every time I play a cop, which I literally just played one a couple weeks ago, but when I'm being finicky about my wardrobe particularly, I always say to the wardrobe people, I'm like, I'm really sorry, but like I will get yelled at later. And even when I think I've got it all right, my brother's like, why was your radio cord like that? And I'm like, I don't know, dude. I don't know. I thought I got it all. I was so impressed this one time I did this movie called Last Seen Alive with Gerard Butler, and I was playing a sergeant. And the ongoing joke is like, I sent in my family chat, like, I just wanted to, I want the record to reflect that I made sergeant before Darren did. Because he was up for sergeant, but he hadn't been like pinned.
Okay.
So the ongoing joke is I made sergeant before him. But
Nice.
that was the outfit that I was like, I got everything. My pins are right. My stripes are right. My everything. And that was the one where he's like, what was your cord doing behind your back, dangling like this way or whatever? And I was like, I couldn't see that. So there's always something.
Awesome. I worry about asking questions like that because there's a high risk reward there for that style of question.
Yeah.
Because there's always the chance that you'd be like, no. I'm like, okay, we're just going to cut that from the interview and move along.
Yeah. Anticlimactic with law enforcement stuff. Oh Lord. Yeah. And I get a lot of people who obviously hit me up because I'm also an audition coach on the side. Like, you know, when I have time to do that and stuff, I love doing that. I love pouring into other people, especially when it's stuff like procedural roles where they're like, but would this happen? Or how would I respond to that? Like, I usually know the answer. Or at least know the answer from my perspective. Right. So,
Okay.
Yeah. It's nice to be able to
I
help
like it.
actors with that particular element of things or that particular type of role.
Understood. All right. The final question I'm going to ask you.
Oh, we're at final question.
We call it our silly question.
Okay.
Well, actually, it's our next to last question. There's one
Okay.
more question after this, but this is what we call our silly question. And we asked this because Kathleen, my co-host, has a 5-year-old daughter. And one day they were out and about, and somebody asked her daughter this question, but not her. And we thought, well, that's kind of rude. You know, how did we get old enough that you didn't get asked this question anymore?
Okay.
So we wanted to put an end to that. So,
Great.
Dani Deette, what's your favorite dinosaur?
Oh, I feel like I saw a clip of something about this, and I was like, "That's a great question," but I know you did it every interview. I do have a favorite dinosaur. It is the oh my god, I've never forgotten the name. Hold on, give me a second. It's the oh gosh, it's the one on Jurassic Park that is really cute, and then it goes and it's crazy.
Oh yeah, the fans out. Yeah.
Oh my god,
spits the venom.
I've never once forgotten the name of this. It's gonna come to me. You guys know what I'm talking about. Those cute little guys. They're tiny. Well, they're not tiny. They're probably the size of like a regular human, but then they've got those little things that fan out and they spit the venom. And they killed the one guy with the glasses in the original Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
You Google it.
I am so Googling it right now. So
yeah, it's there's so many people that are gonna be like watching this and screaming the name at the
yeah.
screen.
That's kind of the way we roll, though. It's fine.
And the funny thing is that I started substitute teaching during the strike, and there's a little boy who's obsessed with dinosaurs, and we were just going through the dinosaur book one by one, the two of us, and we were reading all about these dinosaurs. There's actually one that's a water dinosaur called the Massasaurus, and it is 3 times, fun fact, it is 3 times the weight of a T-Rex and twice the length, and it's scary as heck.
So these little fellas are called the Dilophosaurus.
Is that what it's called? That is not what I thought it was.
Dilophosaurus, maybe. I'm sure there's somebody out there who's also going to be equally not thrilled with my lack of pronunciation.
There's another one, though. There's another name to ones that look like that, because I know that there are some dinosaurs that look similar, but did you Google what was the cute dinosaur in Jurassic Park?
No, I Googled Jurassic Park venom spitter.
Amazing.
And yeah, that's the action figure Dilophosaurus Jurassic Park. That's the
that is not the name, but okay. I mean, that's not the name I had in my brain. I had the wrong name then. Not
Well, if you remember what the other one is, you'll have to let me know, and we'll see what that one looks like.
I will. But you know what? The Bronchiosaurus is also just like so cute. It looks like the nicest dinosaur ever.
Right? He's your best friend.
Yeah,
he's just there to have a good time.
Yeah,
he's there to have a good time.
So anyway.
All right, we'll go with it.
Really deep, and I'm still not over it. I'm still.
All right, Dani, thank you so much for being on the FSF PopCast today. Where can our listeners and followers go to find out more about you and anything you have upcoming?
Oh, okay. Well, I guess the best place is IMDb. Always, you can always check me out on IMDb, and you guys have the spelling of my name. That lists all my upcoming stuff, and then also my social media. I really only exist on Instagram, and it's Dani_Deette. And yeah, and I do have a few things coming out. So, well, I don't know when, but I just got done. I just filmed 3 television shows and a movie. I just did those since July.
Okay.
Yeah, and I would say the one that I'm most just like nostalgically happy about, and it's on IMDb, so I can say it. I can't tell you anything about it, but I will be making an appearance in Happy Gilmore 2.
Very cool.
Yeah, I'm very excited about that.
Nice.
It was a good experience.
I will look forward to seeing you on that. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, and then there is a new show that is been created by the same creator as Outer Banks, and it's called The Runarounds. And I will be peppered throughout that. It'll be on Amazon probably this coming June, July. It's gonna be a great show. And I'm in Matlock. Right. I just did Matlock with Kathy Bates. I'm in a couple episodes of that. Yeah, so I'm excited about that too.
Excellent. Well, we will put those links down in the show notes down below so people can follow you, find out what's going on, and check you out on IMDb. We can put a link directly to your page right on there for them to be able to click on. So.
Oh, I just thought of something because you have a lot of sci-fi fans, obviously, that follow you. So you may have a lot of people that are familiar with Dark Matter, which came out on Apple TV by Blake Crouch, New York Times bestseller. But they were renewed for season 2. And it's sounding like I may be heading back to Chicago in the next few months to do season 2.
Very cool.
Yeah. So I'm very excited.
As well, you should be. That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Well, cool. Well, that gives us something else to look forward to. So, guys, make sure that you follow Dani on her Instagram page. You can find it there. There'll be the link down below for that. And then also check her out on IMDb. Now, as we are talking about the importance of following somebody, here's a great time for you to remember to subscribe to the FSF PopCast if you haven't already. We'll be handy dandy and put a little link right on the screen right about now. Yeah. Go ahead and click that button because by doing that, you help us ensure that not only do we get to have your subscription, but that helps us to attract other guests like the amazing Dani Deette here today to come and have these fun chats with us and tell us these great stories. So please subscribe. It helps us more than we'll ever really be able to tell you. And we want you to go check out Dani's work as well. Follow her on Instagram. Anyway, so exactly. Follow her. So, all right, guys.
My dog.
Thanks. Oh, well, that's enough reason right there. That's the winner. We should have led with that.
Yeah, it's what all my stories are about, dogs.
Fair enough. I get it. All right, guys. Thank you for tuning in today. And Dani, thank you for being on the FSF PopCast. Goodbye.
Thank you, guys.
Copyright 2024 FSF PopCast. Reference any specific product or entity mentioned on this podcast does not constitute an endorsement or recommendation by FSF PopCast. The views expressed by guests are their own, and their appearance on the program does not imply an endorsement of them or any entity they represent. If you have any questions about this disclaimer, please contact us via email at info@fsfpopcast.com.